Hello, I'm Natasha Coyle and welcome back to another episode of The Rest is Rugby, the video series by Glasgow Warriors that explores the off-field stories of our staff, players and community. On this week's episode, we're going to be discussing the women's rugby game, which has exponentially grown in the last few years. And with me today, we have Ailie Tucker and Ceitidh Ainsworth, two of our very own Glasgow Warriors women. Welcome both to the show.
Hiya.
So let's start by discussing your first rugby memory. When did you first pick up a rugby ball? Was it down at your minis club? Was it with your family? Or was it just going to a game? Ailie, let's start with you.
Rugby's been a bit of a family thing. My dad played, my uncle played, my grandpa played and coached. My brother plays, so it was kind of natural for me to go along and break the mould and become the first girl in the family to pick up a rugby ball. So that was quite fun.
And did you always play in the front row? You were one of our top try scorers last year.
No, I didn't. I started off at like 8 or flank. That's where I started off, and then progressed to front row. It just happened, like we were short of front row, and very silly of me, threw my hand up and said, "Yeah, I'll play front row," and that was it. I've never allowed to leave. So
stepped in and stuck there. Yeah,
that's it. Stuck.
Yeah, Katie, what about you? You said you came from a rugby family.
Yeah, so my uncles all played rugby. All my cousins played rugby as well. And then my brother started to play. And then a couple of years later, we were like just chucking the ball about. And we go down to like the tartan touch, what they had at the county. And then as a joke, I was like, Kirsty, you should go do rugby because you used to athletics and everything. And then my dad said, oh yeah, you're going down. And I was like, oh great. I'm buzzing, but really nervous. But then first session, absolutely loved it and wanted to go back. So it was good. I think I was like 13.
And then you just stayed in the game. And you obviously both play in the women's premiership. Ailie, yourself with Watsonians and Katie with Stirling County. Did you play against each other before you played for Glasgow Warriors women with each other? Or you never encountered each other in the games?
I mean, only the last couple of years I think we've played against each other, haven't we? So, but then obviously didn't get to know Katie until I came properly until I came here. Like I knew who she was, but I didn't actually know her as a person. So that it was nice to get to know a lot of people from different clubs coming here. It was nice, like to people that you would only associate with as competition.
Yeah, because like you'd know of everyone, but then you didn't actually know them.
Yeah, so like coming to here was fantastic because you get to meet people and like maybe your expectations of them were so different, like judging people for who they are as a player, not a person. I think that was a big thing, and it was actually, I've made really good friends here.
And do you think that the personalities that you saw in the gym and on the field were similar to what you played against, or was it just kind of like, I never knew this person was like that, or I didn't think this person had such a big personality? Is there anyone that really stood out, like in the gym or on the field with their personality?
Obviously Holland's quite a big personality as well.
Absolutely.
But like when you play against them, you don't really get to know them or like get to know what they're like. So when you actually play with them and see them outside of on the pitch, you really get to know like them as a person.
Absolutely. Great. We'll move on to talking about Glasgow Warriors women and the first ever women's team in the club's history. What was that like playing at Scotstoun with the big screen set up with a home crowd in Club of Origin round as well? So representing your clubs of origin and leading up and showing everything that you've got on offer here at Glasgow Warriors.
It was really good because people that maybe wouldn't come down for the women's game, they came down early before watching the men's game, and it was good to have like all that crowd there and cheering us on and supporting, and it was a really good atmosphere. It was good.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and it was lovely to see a lot of young girls and even young boys as well coming down to watch. To like come down early, it was like for Origin Day. It was a lovely afternoon, and the weather was great, so there was a lot of people down, and like just seeing showing these girls where they could progress to, given the chance. Like you know, if this is something they want to pursue, like this is maybe a stepping stone that they can focus on, and like this is where I want to progress to, so that I can go professional, or you know, or like just even develop my game. Like this could be something they can strive towards. I thought that was rewarding.
Yeah, because I don't think you actually realise until it was after the game and there was all these little girls like they're wanting you to like sign something or even
Take
get a
photographs,
picture
yeah.
with you. And there was a girl, she took her jacket off and she had a Stirling County jumper on and wanted a picture, and it was just like, you don't actually realise what impact like you have. So it's quite nice.
And do you feel like women's rugby as a game has really changed since you first started playing?
Yeah, I'd say it's really, really changed, and for the better, I think. And like from when I started, it was, well, grassroots. I was a young teenager and started playing. I had like, I don't know, it's maybe to relieve some anger. I don't know, but when I started, but like realizing when I got to 18, like, oh, I want to maybe progress my game here. I maybe want to go a bit further, and that's when I started looking for a Premiership team, and then moving from grassroots girls to a women's team. It was a massive jump, huge jump.
Yeah, there's so much more opportunity as well. Like, there's not only is there more opportunity like with the Glasgow stuff and having regional training and gym, but there's a lot more teams that have started because of just having everyone else and more numbers come in, and there's lots of women in rugby now.
I mean, the men's game hundreds of years ago was not professional, and there were players who had to take time off of work to go and play rugby. I feel like the women's game is kind of at a crossroads now, where you've got some players who are fully professional, they're professional rugby players, some who are semi-professional, and some who work full-time and have to fund their own rugby career. What are your thoughts on working and the state of women's rugby in this growth of a professional era?
I mean, speaking from somebody who is full-time every day of the week, it can be challenging, and it can put a lot of people off, and like understandably so. Sometimes you have to put your career ahead of your rugby career, and that's understandable because rugby's for a shorter amount of time than your actual career, because rugby for a lot of women doesn't pay the bills, you know. So it's like those barriers need to be broached and amended, really, I think, for professional athletes or people who want to go professional. I think there does need to be a happy medium, in a sense. Like for me, I love my work, I love doing what I do, but I also love rugby. But sometimes I'll have to forfeit rugby in order to facilitate my work, and and sometimes that doesn't go down well with coaches or selection, things like that. So it's something that maybe needs to be looked at and addressed.
Yeah, like I'm kind of the opposite. I took a year off uni to kind of focus on rugby, and it's a bit difficult to get a job when you are trying to focus on it, because if I'm travelling through to Edinburgh a couple of times a week, it does take a big chunk out of your day, and especially with training, so it's hard to find like somewhere that's flexible enough that will give you that time off on the weekends or during the week. But there is definitely more opportunity to like go semi-professional, professional these days, which is quite good.
I think if we flip it on its head, women's rugby has had to go through so many barriers, but because you have careers and you're doing coaching, you're doing farming, do you think that almost puts women's semi-professional or even Premiership club level players in a different position for when they do want to finish playing rugby, that they have something after playing?
For me, the semi-professional was good in a way that I wasn't required to put in as much time as what a professional athlete would, so that way I was still able to manage work and manage to still do exactly what was expected of me from the Glasgow coaches and even from my club coaches. I was still able to do that, meet their expectations, and also continue on with my work as well, which can be a juggle for people. Like I know I like farmers have like a lot of work, but also like for people who are teachers or like all sorts of like accountants, lawyers, things like that. It's like these people, like they have important careers. Everybody's career is important, no matter what it is you do. If it's important to you, then it's important. So having that semi-professional side of things, for me anyway, was ideal for me to progress my rugby, but then also allow me to focus on work as well, which was really good because, like Katie said before, it's hard to find places that are flexible in that sense.
Yeah, and even with rugby, there's so many jobs to do with rugby. So once that playing career might be done, there's so many jobs that you can go into that are still associated with rugby that you can learn throughout like your playing career if you do go professional or semi-professional.
It opens doors.
Yeah, it does.
It opens doors.
Sport absolutely opens doors. It opens connections, and previous guests have been on the show have said that what rugby especially has given them is connections in the community, connections in an industry which they didn't know existed until they got even just a brief glimpse. And when you're a player, you see life that could still be in rugby but in a completely different way. We have a member of staff here who used to play for Scotland, and she started in our commercial team and now works as our community manager. So there is also, when you play, you can see the other side of rugby when you work in a club environment like Glasgow Warriors. Let's talk more about the women's game and where you want to see the women's game in Scotland especially go. I feel like the Celtic Challenge has really helped bring in not just only Scotland but Ireland and Welsh. So it's the three Celtic nations with 2 teams from each. The Celtic Challenge is looking to expand this year, but I want to talk more about women's rugby generally in the world. Where do you want to see it go in the next 5 to 10 years? Coverage, pathways, or just more opportunities for women in rugby?
Yeah, definitely more coverage of the game, especially like just even our Scottish Premier's coverage of it this year, with it being on BBC Alba, which is quite good, getting more coverage of that. More development of the pathways, there's more than there has been, so there's more girls coming in, there's under 16s, under 18s, there's the under 20 stuff. And yeah,
I mean, I would like to see have full professional teams.
Yeah,
I think almost not as such a big scale as England, but at least have something that we can compete with, the English teams like Loughborough and Bristol and Leicester Tigers, and things like that. Is if Glasgow and Edinburgh can facilitate that would be huge.
Yeah, especially because there isn't that opportunity up here at the moment. So all the girls that want to become professional, semi-professional, they all go down south. So it takes some of the girls away. So it'd be good to have either professional or semi-professional, full-time kind of stuff here in Scotland.
Yeah.
And even if you had a mixture of professional and semi-professional contracts, if you've got the people who are playing and training full-time to almost lift the quality, it means that almost everybody else has to step up and be like, I know where the caliber is, this is where I want to be, and I know if they've got a professional contract, then I can get one as well. Do you think that even if we, I don't know, had 10 professional women's contracts in Glasgow and Edinburgh, do you think that would do exactly that, just maybe lift more opportunities, create more opportunities for even semi-professional players?
Yeah, I definitely think so, because even when the girls go away and they go to Glasgow and Edinburgh, when they go back to club, they bring all that knowledge and stuff, and it lifts everyone else up as well, so improves the standard. So even just like you said, having a certain number, it'll definitely improve everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can only try, can't we? So I mean, that's what I would like to see happen. So I mean, if it doesn't work, then fair enough, but at least the SRU and Glasgow and Edinburgh say, oh, at least we tried, so I think nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Absolutely. And kind of coming back to a point that you said, Ailie, if you love what you do, that's what is important. And for so many people, rugby is not just they love playing, they love watching, they love going to the games. It's a way that they spend time with their friends, with their family, with anybody that they care about in life. And I think if we can expand rugby into people's lives in whatever way that may be, the women's players touch on young children, including young girls who think, I never thought I could get into this game, but now I can see someone who looks like me or who has a similar body type to me, which I think is very special about rugby union. It's a game for everybody, and when you have a women's team at somewhere like Scotstoun and across at Edinburgh, it shows that it can be done, and Scotland have shown that it can be done, it will be done. We're going to make those changes, and if you're not part of the change, how is change ever going to happen?
Yeah.
Did you have a player or a coach when you were younger or thinking about getting into the game that you thought, that's why I want to play rugby, it's because of them, they've inspired me? Is there anyone in particular? It could be a friend, family member.
I'd always go down and watch my cousins play. My uncle used to played for Scotland as well. So I'd always go down to the club, watch my cousins play. So I think they kind of like inspired me into it as well. So,
I mean, like my grandpa being a player and a coach, obviously, he's never coached me, or like he hasn't coached for a while. But like he was a massive support of me going down. I said to him, I was like, I think I'm gonna give rugby a try, and he was really, really happy for me. He says, I think that'll be really good for you, and yeah, and like as of like professional players, like to look up to, like of course, like I grew up never really watching any women's, like Scotland women. It just wasn't really that talked about. So there was obviously a lot of the men's players. So like I mean, started off as back row number 8. I was like obsessed with David Denton, absolutely obsessed with him. Posters on the wall, the whole shooting match.
Oh wow!
If you're watching, David. So, but yeah, no. That's who I started with, and then when I moved to Watsonians after I turned 18, like I was playing with like Lana Skeldon, and that, and like I was like, I want to have the rugby knowledge that she has. I want to be a defensive machine like her, like and like playing with her and training with her every week was a huge confidence boost, and also it just helped develop. So like that was when I started like, oh, this is where it could go. This is how good it can get. So yeah, that was my inspiration.
Yeah, when I actually remembered when I was younger, when I'd already started rugby, but we'd be sitting in the stand, and then it'd be Megan Kennedy would walk by. We're like, oh my gosh, that's Megan, like she plays for Scotland and stuff. So I'm like having her also at the club, playing for Stirling. It was great to see what I could do,
and where you could get to.
Yeah.
Did you find that as well, that the knowledge was very much at Watsonians is very widely shared? I'm sure it's the same at Stirling County, where women who have gone on to play where you maybe want to play, or you think I could get to that next level, do they openly share all of that knowledge to lift you up? Do they help you in that way?
Having female role models was huge, massive, because like growing up, like you didn't have huge amounts of it, especially women in sport. Like it was hard to come across really good role models, especially for body types.
Absolutely.
So like you're used to seeing the Olympics, for instance, like the athletes, they're 6-pack, you know, really thin, really fit, and that. But like learning that there is different types of fit, and different body types have different types of fitness.
Absolutely.
So that was huge. So it's like learning that there is a place for you was huge. So yeah, learning from people who are exactly the same as you was massive, and it was refreshing, and I felt like I could be proud of who I was, how I trained, how I performed, and not have to worry about anybody else's opinion, and not be like almost scrutinised for like how I looked and that. So it was so that was a huge confidence boost, just knowing that there was a place for me in rugby, no matter who I was, where I came from, and what I looked like. So that was great, and that was where I think it was really good for me to settle into, and helped me as not as a player but as a person, and like learning off of people, like I said, like Lana, and that, like just knowing that if you want it bad enough, you can do it. And like she really instilled that in me. It's like, if you want to be good at tackling, if you want to be the best tackler in the Prem, you got to put the work in, but you got to want to do it. So it inspires you to work harder. And you like, okay, and like I had a bet with a couple of girls on the team. I was like, right, I'm going to put a really big hit in here, and if I do, you owe me a pint after the game. So safe to say, at like socials after games, I was very drunk by the end of it. So it just proves that if you can work hard enough and you have the right people in your life to help you get there, that's pretty much all you need.
Thank you so much to Ailie and Katie for coming on another episode of The Rest is Rugby. That's all we've got time for on today's show. We'll be back soon with another episode. Bye for now.
Bye.